Oh my God. Let me show you what I got. This beat is so hot. Oh my God.
Is that bullshit?
I think not.
What is up, everybody? How's it going? It's week 10 of fantasy football, and we're here to give you the game previews, our hot and cold players. And if you're new to the channel, new to this show, we are the candy shop, so we like to call it our sweet and sour picks. But what it equates to is just our love and hate picks for the week. But we are down a man. But as they say, the show must go on. Unfortunately, Dylan is not available with us tonight. He is experiencing technical difficulties with his internet. It is what it is. But if he gets internet in time, he'll join us. I doubt it, but we are here.
I don't think we'll be going till 12:30 a.m. when he gets his internet back.
Maybe we can filibuster enough. No, that ain't happening. But maybe he gets a positive update and he can hop in. But we've lost our mediator, and we at least still got the Mike and Ike's for the candy shop, though. But before we jump into it, make sure you follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you can. Make sure you hit that like button if you want to. Hit that bell up top, get the notification. And then go over to, we got an audio network as well, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you get all of our podcasts there. And then you definitely got to, there's enough time in the year still to make some money. And you're going to do that by becoming a member and getting into our Discord channel where you can talk to Dave Eddy, Chris Robin, Keith Fleming, all of them. I swear to you, they make money. I make, if you listen to them, you can make probably about $50 a week, honestly. Which easily pays for the membership, but you got to go to fantasysixpack.net/plans to do it. But before we hop into our game previews, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up that rocket firework contest on Thursday night against the Bengals and the Ravens. Man, that was a good one. It kind of sucked the first half, and it looked like a normal routine Thursday night game. And then that second half was an entirely separate game, man. Like Jamar Chase, good luck if you play against him this week. You play against him anywhere this week?
In our main league, I did. He was able to drop like 60 some odd points or something like that. So it's not the greatest hole to be in, but I'm sure some of you can last. Hopefully one of you had Burrow. That would weather the storm a little bit. Maybe you had Mark Andrews, who's finally coming alive again. Hell, with all the buys, you probably even could have went with Rashad Bateman and still went out positive on Thursday night. So all in all, it was a really good fantasy day. I mean, you had Chase Brown do fine, and obviously Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So yeah, if you had anybody in that game, hopefully you started them.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry kind of had a mundane night. The touchdown.
Oh yeah, Derrick Henry. Yeah.
But really who took the biggest hit and who really, had the worst night was probably Zay Flowers.
I was going to say, what happened to Deontay Johnson? Is he not?
I mean, he did not play very, very much.
And I don't think he was very happy.
He was not very happy. He actually tweeted after the game, there's two sides to every story about his snap count. But it is what it is. Maybe the Ravens are slow playing it. It was an early game, It was, an early week, not even 2 full weeks since he's been there. So,
yeah, I don't even think he played last week or whenever it was.
So I expect him to get more snaps next week. But either way, they won the game, so what can you be mad about? But
I mean, you can be mad if you're going against Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow if someone unfortunately had that happen to him.
And you had Zay Flowers on the other side. That'd be a real downer. If you had Zay Flowers on the opposite side of Jamar Chase and a Joe Burrow stack.
Yeah, that would be.
Oh, man. To your knowledge, anywhere that, you went against, Joe Burrow too, maybe Lamar Jackson, because both of them, like Lamar Jackson, first half, he did not have a reasonable night. And then, like I said, that second half, everything exploded, and he's
It
probably
happened when that fumble, Chase Brown fumbled, and everything switched, and Ravens went right down, and then there was some 2-point conversion that Lamar was able to make. But the worst thing is the Bengals actually had a chance to win it at the end, but they missed, or the refs missed Burrow getting smacked in the face mask. So that's always wonderful to see. I feel bad for Bengals fans.
I mean, you not just the face mask. I mean, there was a face mask to the old lineman. There was holding on Gesicki. There was
You
pass
can get away with that.
interference on-
The holding's fine, whatever, but the face mask to the quarterback isn't supposed to happen. So that should be it. That should be instantly a 2-point conversion or whatever they do there. I'm not really sure.
It'd be half the distance to the goal.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
see,
replay pretty much.
Still, it'd be a lot better.
Do you run the ball, or you still throw the ball in that situation? That if you're half the distance to the goal,
I'm not paid to make that decision.
oh come on! You and I both know you've played Madden long enough, and you play NCAA long enough to you'd have your own opinion.
Run it.
You would have ran it.
Yep.
That's a good one. All right, so we should probably move in then to our game previews. Don't worry, guys. If you need football early, you got it this week. You get the New York Giants versus the Carolina Panthers in Munich, Germany. It's going to be fun. And by it's going to be fun, I mean you get football all day long. That's what's going to be fun. You get to watch football all day long. Now, is this going to be a good game to watch? Probably not. Like, you actually have the sheet open, I'm guessing.
Nope.
Oh, come on. I thought you would give the over-unders. Come on, man.
No, I'm old school, man. I got paper.
You got paper, huh?
Yeah, a piece of paper or a notebook.
I figured you'd have the sheet open at least so you can give me the over-unders because I know Dylan works so hard on that. I got him right here.
No.
Giants 6 Giants 6.5. It's got an over-under of 40.5. So like I said, not a very good game. Darius Slayton ruled out with a concussion. Adam Thielen on the side for the Panthers ruled out. Jonathan Brooks is questionable as well, so he is not a full go yet as of now. But this one's not going to be great. So, Ike, we're going to start it off with you. All right. You want to go sweet? You want to go sour? Doesn't bother me either way, but go ahead.
I'm going sweet. Sorry. And it's Chuba Hubbard. Man just got paid more money than I even remotely thought he was going to be able to get paid, which I'm happy for. I was always high on him from when he got drafted. I don't know why everybody shit on me for that, but look at him now. I like it. I'm going with him as my sweet pick. This could be a game where they have to rely on him. So,
I mean, yeah, it's just going to be hard, I think, to run against this line because they are getting healthier. They got Dexter Lawrence, I believe, back, and they also got Brian Burns, I believe, back as well.
don't scare me.
I know. I'm just more worried about, and it leads me into my sour player. Chuba Hubbard is my sour player, and it's because Jonathan Brooks is most likely going to play. If this changes, if Jonathan Brooks doesn't play for another week, I think you're starting Chuba Hubbard because of the workload. He's clearly, getting the workload to sustain this. But if Brooks plays, I don't know how much he's going to play, but either way, these guys are going to cannibalize into their workload. All right. So if you're desperate, you can start Chuba, I guess, with the buys. New York Giants are the 15th best matchup for running backs. But like I said, I just expect Brooks and Chuba. Brooks maybe not so efficient, but Chuba will be, but they're going to want to work Brooks in. It's just going to be a cannibalization situation.
Could be.
Say that 3 times fast. Cannibalization situation.
I don't want to try.
But we're just gonna go back and forth here. I know Dylan likes to normally, trail, and I'll give you my sweet player pick afterwards. But since he's not here, you're gonna give me your sour player now. Then Ike.
I'm gonna go on the Giants side. I'm gonna go Daniel Jones. I know he had a solid game last week, surprisingly, but it's been a shit show for him, and I see that continuing again.
So who'd you say?
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones is your sour player?
Yeah.
That actually makes me laugh. Do you want to guess why?
Because that's your sweet player?
That is my sweet player.
That's awesome.
We have both exactly opposite. That makes me laugh. Daniel Jones,
absolutely nobody right there.
Well, I wouldn't say that. It's just we got differing opinions here because he's coming off a QB5 performance last week against Washington.
Yeah, so he did
good. Carolina is the fourth best matchup for QBs. Jones has just two top 10 QB finishes on the year. Carolina has allowed 4 QBs to finish in the top 10 in 9 weeks against them. I think this is going to be Daniel Jones' third top 10 finish of the year and the 5th game out of 10 for the Panthers to allow that. So, yeah, how do you feel about that?
Don't feel much about it. I wouldn't be playing him.
Albert says hello. What's up, Albert? Thank you for joining us like always. What's up, Jamie? Appreciate you being here. Facebook user Boo Cincinnati. I played the guy with Burrow and Shea sucks. I know it sucks, man. Hopefully you can afford to lose one game, but yeah, that one's a rough one.
You still got to hold out hope, though.
Yeah, I mean, you're not out yet. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah.
Jamie's got some comments here. What? I have Daniel Jones as a top 10 QB this week. Told you, Ike.
That means nothing to me. It's Daniel Jones. Come on.
Yeah, Bo Nix put up 30 points against the Panthers.
Bo Nix has been solid.
That's fair. It is still Daniel Jones, and that is Bo Nix. Are we, and I know I'm kind of, going off the tangent here, but can we now say Bo Nix is a better quarterback than Daniel Jones in the NFL with this limited sample size?
Man, it's so early to tell, but I like him more. I think he has more talent, but at least Daniel Jones has speed.
Bo Nix has more talent, you think, than
Daniel Jones? At least arm talent. I think he's more accurate.
Think so?
Yes.
But I was thinking deep shot because Bo Nix doesn't really have a deep arm, but he is accurate, so that does work in a Sean Payton offense.
Dude, he's molding him into a taller Drew Brees that can run.
A taller Drew Brees? I mean, realistically, how much taller is he than Drew Brees?
Bo Nix is like 6'4".
Is he really?
Yeah. I
underestimated how tall he was. That's my bad. All right, I digress, though. We'll move on to our next game here, and it's the New England Patriots versus the Chicago Bears. The over-under here is 40. Not 40. That's too high for this game. 38.5. That sounds about right.
Good Lord.
It's too high. I was reading the next game. Patriots are Bears are -2, at least favored in this game, so that's a positive for you. Not really a lot of fantasy relevant players that are questionable or ruled out besides, Jaquan Brisker, again, concussion ruled out for you guys. Darnell Wright ruled out, Braxton Jones, the lineman, not great for Caleb Williams, I guess is the best way to put it. But we'll get right into it. You gave me your sweet pick first last time. Give me your sour pick this time.
I'm going to go with Drake May. The way to beat the Bears is running, which obviously you'll know who my sweet player is after this. It's pretty easy to guess that. But, yeah, Drake May has a rough start ahead of him. The Bears usually do pretty good against quarterbacks. Kyler Murray didn't even crack top 15 or 20, I believe. Jane Daniels obviously got bailed out by that Hail Mary. So the track record is still there that the Bears defense are good, or the Bears have a good defense against quarterbacks.
Yeah, they held Kyler Murray in check, even though they couldn't really stop anything because all the points were scored on the ground. Which is plays into my sweet players as well. But I'm gonna just follow up on your sour player here. It's not Drake May, and I know you don't want to hear it, and I guess because of your bias, you probably didn't go this way. But it's DJ Moore. DJ Moore is my sour
I thought
player.
you were gonna say someone else.
I'm curious to know who you thought I was gonna say. Not gonna tell me?
No, I thought you were gonna say about DJ Moore.
No. New England is the 13th best matchup for wide receivers. He is going to see the Christian Gonzalez shadow, though. Moore, the last weeks, has seen less targets than Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, which is not optimal. He has the same amount of receptions as Odunze and less than Keenan Allen. And he is just averaging 6.2 fantasy points per game the last 3 weeks.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, if you got better options, guys, this week, I'd be, starting DJ Moore. Like, here's how I kind of feel about it this week. Like, who would you rather start, DJ Moore or Brian Thomas with Mac Jones?
DJ Moore.
In that case, you'd still start DJ Moore. Going.
Oh yeah, I don't trust Mac Jones even a sliver of hope for him.
Man, do you trust Caleb Williams the way he's been playing, though, against this New England defense?
More than Mac Jones, at least.
That's
not much.
That's fair. I will give you that one. So, yeah, that's why it's like if you got better options, sit DJ Moore. But if you don't, I get it. There's 4 bye weeks. You're still starting him. Just temper expectations. Probably going to be another game where it's like 6 to 10 points.
Yep.
But let's hear it because I have a feeling we have the same, one of the same sweet players here. Go ahead with yours.
It's Stevenson. Bears get gashed by the running game, and in 3 of his last 4 games, he's been RB7 overall or better in those games. So he's getting the touches, he's getting the touchdowns. Efficiency is not good at all. It's like a 2.5 yards per carry, but still all in on Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah, I found that out when I was doing my research for why I wanted to have Ramondre Stevenson as my sweet player. But then I looked at that 2.2 yards per carry the last 3 games, and I was like, oh, how can I say this is a sweet player? But he's got the 12th best matchup for running backs. He's got an 11% target share, 3rd on the team. So, I mean, that he's getting
There are worse options out there.
He's getting saved by, these 11 targets and 10 receptions the last 3 games. But we know that, that's what we know. He's better than Antonio Gibson. We've seen this. He's getting the red zone work, so you're still starting him. He's a low-end RB2, high-end flex play for you this week. But then I also believe that DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson have a little bit of value this week with the 4 bye weeks. New England is the fifth best matchup for running backs. They've allowed the 7th most rushing yards in the NFL. So, yeah, this is one of those things where, they just traded Khalil Herbert. So we're going to see an uptick in, Roschon Johnson usage because, DeAndre Swift cannot handle the 25-touch workload. And they want to run the ball. So agreed. I think Roschon Johnson gives you a little bit like desperation flex appeal this week is kind of what I'm getting at because he does get involved in the passing game too. All right. So on to the next game, which is a much more fun game. I think this is the one that had the higher over under. It is the Buffalo Bills at the Indianapolis Colts. That 46.5 over under. Bills are -4, so that's a lot of points I like in this game here. Keon Coleman ruled out for the Bills. Amari Cooper is questionable, so keep an eye on that. Otherwise, on the Colts side, there's really not much new. Oh yeah, Michael Pittman was ruled out today. That is one thing. So all right. I'm just going to keep alternating on you. Give me your sweet pick for this one.
Khalil Shakir, he's been pretty good the past 3 weeks. He's been wide receiver 3 or better in all 3 of those weeks. 1 wide receiver 1 finish, 1 wide receiver 2 finish, and 1 wide receiver 3 finish. So I'd fire him up again this week with the injuries to Keon Coleman, Amari Cooper. I think you said it was questionable, or I don't know what you said. I forgot. But yeah.
Keon Coleman's out. Amari Cooper's questionable.
Yeah, I know Coleman's out.
But all right, so it's Shakir. I went with a little bit of the low hanging fruit here. Dylan says, "Bring some energy, Ike. Come on." I went with a little bit of. I wonder how he must be on cell phone data with his internet connectivity issues. But I went a little bit with a low hanging fruit here, and it's Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, you were starting him, but here's the thing. Jonathan Taylor really hasn't been that second-round pick we've wanted him to be yet this year. This game, he's going to be. All right, Buffalo is the second-best matchup for running backs. He's getting an average of 3 targets a game since Flacco took over the starting position. Bills in 9 weeks, 5 times have allowed a top 10 running back, twice to Devon Achane. So Jonathan Taylor is of that, caliber, maybe, obviously better than Achane. But since returning in week 8, Jonathan Taylor's getting 18.5 touches a game. I can easily see that be a 20 plus, touch game this week. So I think Jonathan Taylor has a top 5 performance.
I mean, it'd be a good bounce back after last week.
It would be a good bounce back after last week. But who is your sour pick in this one, Ike?
I'm going to do an easy one because I think most of this offense is going to be bad except for Josh Downs, but it's Flacco. Can't trust him in this. With so many buys, you might think you might want to stream him, but I would find another option. Like I'd go Caleb over him. That might be obvious for some people, or it might be blasphemous. That's up for you. But yeah, I don't really like Flacco this week.
I mean, I have it in my notes here because Joe Flacco is my sour player as well. Buffalo is the 7th toughest matchup for QBs, 7th toughest matchup for wide receivers. It's Michael Pittman was ruled out, like I said. So I mean, he's probably going to hyper target Josh Downs, but at the same time, this is a tough matchup. We saw what Joe Flacco looked like last week when he turned into a pumpkin against the Vikings. This is maybe a tier down from the Vikings defense, but either way, it's a tough matchup. I know you said you'd rather start Caleb Williams over Joe Flacco, but how about this one? Would you rather start Daniel Jones over Joe Flacco?
Yeah.
I like that one as well. He offers a little bit more of a rushing floor, too, which is what we like.
True. Yes, he does.
I mean, Joe Flacco did have that long 22-yard rush a couple of weeks ago, which was impressive for a man of his age.
Surprised he didn't rip his hamstring off the bone.
Oh, come on. Why you got to say that? Too soon for all the Cowboy fans and Dak Prescott owners. All right. Well, on to the next game then. We got a fun one here. Maybe, kind of, sort of. We'll see. Probably going to be a lot of garbage time here, I think. Mac Jones, I think, can surprise. This one is a 43 over-under. The Vikings are favored by 6.5. But I like this game. This game could have fantasy value here. I like 2 players on the Jaguars. Obviously a lot more players on the Vikings here. But Ike, who's your sour sweet player? I believe it's this time.
Oh, I'm gonna go with Sam Darnold. Jaguars are brutal against the pass. We all know this. And the running game has been suspect with Aaron Jones not doing as good as they probably would have liked. So Sam Darnold is having to throw more than he would like. So it's turning out for him. And he was quarterback 9 last week. In half his games, he's been quarterback 1. So got to roll with him.
Fringe QB1. You got to say that because if I remember
that's fine. That works.
He hasn't had a performance better than
QB9, I believe.
Yeah, QB9. But still, 9 to 12 consistently, we will take that. That's streamer worthy. That works. But thankfully he's not my sweet player.
Helps Addison and Jefferson, and with Hawkinson back, you probably can you could probably throw him in your lineup.
He's a streamer tight end at this point,
For now.
until we see more. But yeah, with 4 bye weeks, you can definitely throw him in your lineup this week. It's one of those things where, I mean, I'll give you this one. This one's a tough one because I gave it to Joe on the Thursday show. I gave it with Laporta instead, but I'm going to give you Hawkinson. Would you rather play Hawkinson or Taysom Hill?
Taysom Hill.
I knew that was coming. I'm playing. Yeah. Taysom Hill is just going to get more involvement, but at the same time, this is a good matchup. Last 4 games for the Jaguars, they have been giving it up to the tight ends. So, I think that's a decent play for streamer worthy, especially like I said, with 4 teams on bye. But like I said, not my sweet player. It is Aaron Jones. Jacksonville.
Whoa, yeah.
Jacksonville is the 3rd best matchup for running backs. They've allowed the 15th most rushing yards and are tied for 4th in the NFL for most rushing touchdowns given up with 11. The caveat here too, as well, is Jacksonville has given up the 3rd most receptions to running backs with 55 in 10 games and 4 receiving touchdowns. I mean, not 10 games, 9 games. And what does Aaron Jones do? He catches the ball. So Aaron Jones probably going to have a boom week this week. I like Aaron Jones this week.
He hasn't boomed since like week 4.
You're right, but this is going to be one of those boom weeks. Like if the stars are aligning for him, he's healthy at the moment. So, like we talked about it.
Do you think maybe he's just not got much left in the tank? Like,
I agree with you on that one. Like he's been healthy for this long. All right. He's an older player. He's a vet. He's probably going to falter off at the end of the year. Like this, I think will be one of his better games, best games of the year with, the stars aligning with how much receptions they give up. That's Aaron Jones' stick. How much rushing yards and how many points to give up to the running back. So like after this week, if you can, sell Aaron Jones because an injury is probably going to happen. I'm the former Packer fan. I've seen it firsthand.
He don't like you guys right now.
No, he don't. Like us. But at the same time, like after this week, I'd be selling Aaron Jones because I don't think his value is going to get any higher.
I can't agree with that.
But on to your sour pick, Ike.
You're not going to like this because you were just saying it could be a shootout, but I don't think the Jaguars offense is going to be any good with Mac Jones at the
I didn't necessarily say shootout, but I just feel like they're underestimating it with Mac Jones. He's a competent backup, is all I'm saying.
like one guy from this offense to play, and that's Evan Ingram. I feel like he should be no matter what in your lineups. You can get away with BTJ with how bad it is, but other than that, man, I don't like it. Not a fan.
See, Mac Jones always puts up top 5 numbers in his first 2 games of the season. This could be
such a wild stat, but I don't see that happening anymore, man. Come on.
I mean, he's got 2 weapons here, and like I said, there's 2 players from this offense I like. You named one of them. It's Evan Ingram. He's probably your sour player, like you said. But
no, I like Evan Ingram. Just everybody else, no.
Okay. Well, the other player is Brian Thomas that I like. But this week he is a sour player. I looked at it. Only getting 4 targets a game the past 3 games. And that was with Trevor Lawrence. Now, he's being efficient. He was getting 14.4 fantasy points.
That might have been when Ingram came back, though.
Also, that is true. But he was getting those 14.4 fantasy points on basically 3 receptions, a game the past 3 games, which he was very efficient with Trevor Lawrence at the very least. I don't know if he's going to be as efficient with Mac Jones. So like maybe he gets hyper targeted and that's where I get turned wrong and I eat rocks here. Or I eat crow is the correct terminology. But Brian Thomas, is my sour player this week. Facebook user is Downs a sure start. He is absolutely a sure start, especially with Pittman ruled out. I mean, I'd say he's a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 with Flacco. Yeah, he had
just because I hate Flacco doesn't mean Downs won't be good. I mean, Downs can have a good game and Flacco be brutal.
This is correct. And
Especially if
Downs,
it's PPR at least.
Downs had a down week last week. It happens to everyone. Happens to even the best of them. I mean, Jamar Chase had a dud week last week, and then this week goes
He
off.
puts up more yards than some quarterbacks do, like Caleb Williams.
And so, yeah, Downs is a sure start. Absolutely. But that moves, that does it for that game. We'll move on to our next game here, which is the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, we got an over-under of 42, another fun one. Although the Chiefs are favored by 7.5. So that is, I feel like Dylan would be betting that line. It could be just me, though. But I digress. Let's move in to your sour player, and I've a feeling it's the same player.
It's Javonte Williams, right?
It is. Go ahead.
Yeah. He's in an absolute brutal matchup. But what makes things worse is he's just been brutal to pass. What was that I had on here? 3 of his last 4 games, he's had 10 or less points. So other than that one boom week, it's just been something you don't want to start. Broncos give Chiefs the first loss. That's actually not bad.
That is a bold prediction, Jamie. That is a bold prediction. It is a divisional game. So anything can happen there.
You're
All right,
muted.
Albert, thank you. Albert, I see your question. We will get to it after this matchup here. So, like you kind of alluded to, a little bit of stats here why Javonte Williams is my sour player. Only 2 times in 9 games has Williams finished as a top 24 running back. Week 5 against the Raiders, RB12. Week 7 against the Saints, RB5. Kansas City is the toughest matchup for running backs, allowing 3 less fantasy points per game than the next toughest, the Chargers. I fully expect another finish outside the top 24. Now, this makes him still flex worthy. But yes, he's still flex worthy with 4 buys.
I played Chuba Hubbard over him.
Duh. Chuba
I didn't think
Hubbard's
that
not
would be a duh, actually. I thought someone would back. You would say no.
No, I would take Chuba Hubbard even with the cannibalization with how about this? Rashad White or Javonte Williams?
Rashad White.
Really? I think I'd.
He still gets more touches. He's the receiving back. Even though Irving gets receptions too, but White gets those as well.
All right. How about Rico Dowdle or Cooper Rush against the Eagles versus Javonte? I agree with you. I'd go Rashad White, but I was just curious of your opinion.
Man, I guess I'd go Dowdle. He's been fine lately. They're going to have to rely on him since they banished Zeke to the Netherlands.
All right. We can move on then. Who is your sweet player? And I have a feeling this is where we're going to differ.
Really, because I think this is easy. It's Kareem Hunt. He has a solid matchup, and since week 5 when he took over, he's averaging 17.8 fantasy points per game. That's perfect for an RB2. Hell, that's almost RB1 number sometimes. So I would roll him out with confidence for the rest of the year unless Isaiah Pacheco randomly comes back and steals the thunder.
I know. I'd be shocked to see. We haven't really got much news on Pacheco.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming back this year.
But we do have the same sweet pick again. It is Kareem Hunt. Last 4 games played for Hunt. He has a 61% snap count. That is, number 1 for the Chiefs. He is the clear hold of this backfield, even with CEH coming back. You got Samaje Perine back there as well, but it's Kareem Hunt. I knew this was coming, Ike, and you won't give me the credit, and that's fine. But when they first signed him to the practice squad after that injury to Pacheco, I knew this was going to happen just the way they were going to play.
I thought he was washed. I think he looked so bad on previous teams. Then he comes back to the Chiefs, and it's just like, I'm ready, man. Back to myself.
Dude, different offense, different environment. The last 3 games, Hunt is second in the NFL in touches per game. only behind Mixon. Hunt's got 24.7 and Mixon's got 26.7. They are grinding him to the ground, and it is
The last year
working.
they can, might as well.
Exactly. It's a 1-year deal. Why not? Like you said, favorable matchup. Denver's 14th best against running backs. They are the 5th toughest for QBs and 9th toughest for wide receivers. So it's just easier to run against them. And then in 5 games since Hunt has taken over, he's got 3 RB1 finishes and, 1 in the top 10. I
That's
think
all in
he
these
gets
last
his,
4 games.
I know, and I think he gets his second top 10 performance this week. So he's a sweet player for me.
I agree.
Joe, but I don't know if you saw it, but Joe said, "What's up? What's up, Joe?"
Hey,
All right, on to Albert's question here. He's got DeAndre Hopkins or George Pickens full point PPR.
that one's easy.
Steelers play Commanders.
It's Pickens.
It is closer now that we saw what Hopkins can do, but that was in a prime matchup against Tampa Bay. This is not a prime matchup to throw against. It's a much better matchup to run against. I think I lean Pickens, even with the Mike Williams trade. He's probably going to play a limited snap count. So give me George Pickens against the Commanders. I know they just traded for Marshawn Lattimore, but he's still dealing with that hamstring injury. It's probably not going to play this week. So give me George Pickens. Jamie says he's got Pickens at wide receiver 12 this week and Hopkins closer to wide receiver 30. Sounds about right.
I like that.
All right. On to the next here. We got the Atlanta Falcons versus the New Orleans Saints. Fresh off a coach firing. Dennis Allen. Bye, Felicia. And then I can't even name the interim head coach. I think it was Rizzler. I can't. It don't matter. No. Occasionally, you get that coaching bump, though, on teams that get firing their coaching. So this should be at least an interesting game. Saints are, the Falcons are favored by 3.5 points, which is a lot closer than I anticipated. But at the same time, that bump, we got an over-under of 46 points here. So they do expect a decent amount of points scored in this matchup. So let's go right into it. Who's your sweet pick for this one?
I'm going with Darnell Mooney this week. In his past 2 games, he's averaging 18 points per game, so I really like that. I think that can continue. Plus, if I'm not mistaken, Drake London is questionable or out. I don't remember.
It was day-to-day. I heard Raheem Morris say that he's expecting Drake London to play this week. But at
Plus,
the same
Kyle
time,
Pitts is dealing with some injuries. I expect him to play.
Maybe limited.
Too. But I like Darnell Mooney even with Drake London and just maybe dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got the same sweet player here. It's Darnell Mooney. He's day-to-day. I think that Drake London's day-to-day. I think that, worst case scenario, you got Drake London out there as kind of a decoy while Darnell Mooney's just eating it up. New Orleans is the 12th best matchup for wide receivers. They've allowed the 5th most receiving yards in the NFL. Mooney's gotten 7.7 targets over the last 3 weeks. That's 20th for wide receivers. He's got 3 top 15 wide receiver performances this year. I expect his 4th one this week against the Saints. Also, this one was kind of a low-hanging fruit, but we know this. Kamara is also a sweet player. In this matchup, I expect him to go off. No Olave. Atlanta's 4th bet. Atlanta allows the 4th most receptions to running backs with 54 through 9 games or 10 games, whichever they've played. But either way, 4th most. So
Kamara's playing his clone. Bijan.
Is he? I wouldn't say he's his clone. Bijan's bigger. You know what I mean? But he plays like Kamara, though. I will say that.
Bijan's maybe like 215. I'm pretty sure Kamara's about 220. I'm pretty sure. Maybe height-wise, Bijan's taller. I think Bijan's like 6'2".
I'd like to say Jahmyr Gibbs is more like Alvin Kamara than Bijan. Where I feel like Bijan's kind of more like a Breece Hall I don't want to say this because Derrick Henry is in a tier amongst his own, but he's got that size. But at the same time, he doesn't play like Derrick Henry, though, at all.
He plays like Kamara because he'll get 6 to 8 catches and then break random tackles and do.
I hate it. You might be right.
But a lot of the running backs are seeing that type of targets now based out because Kamara was good at it and they're seeing it.
All right. We have the same sweet player. We're probably going to have the same sour player. Who is it?
Yeah, let's just get this one over with. It's Derek Carr in this type of streaming world with all the buys. You don't want to go with that. Honestly, I would play him over Mac Jones. So that just goes to show how much I don't like Mac Jones, but I would stay away from Derek Carr as well. It should be an Alvin Kamara type of game.
I'd start Derek Carr over Mac Jones, but man, that's close. Derek Carr's going to have a rough week this week.
Yeah.
He's my sour player. Atlanta's the sixth best matchup for QBs. Just don't fall for this trap, though, with Noah Olave. Did you know New Orleans is 6th in the NFL in rushing attempts? So
Weird.
they don't want to throw the ball. So, sit Carr this week. There's better streaming options out there. You got Darnold, you got Daniel Jones. Heck, I know in some leagues Patrick Mahomes got dropped. Maybe you picked him up. He played Mahomes against the Broncos over Derek Carr.
Can't believe we come to
that. I know. All right, on to the next game here. We got the San Francisco 49ers versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We have an over-under of 50, which this one should be a fun one as well. Now, did you know the 49ers are favored by 6.5 points and an over-under of 50? That seems a little odd, a little strange. Baker's been keeping teams in game, keeping his team in games. So I expect them to cover this one. I really do. But nonetheless, I want your sour player.
You would start this, and this one's going to be so weird to everybody. I don't think he's should be benched, but he's not going to boom for you, so that's why he's kind of sour for me, and I don't think he's going to play very much. But it's C-Mac. I know everybody's going to be excited that he's back and that the best running back's back and good want to play him, but just don't be surprised if he gets a few touches here and there and then a red zone carry. Obviously, they're going to want to get him in the end zone. So if you're in standard leagues, that's an easy yes for me. But if you're in PPR and you're hoping for a boom, probably not going to happen from him this week.
I hope Fantasy Receipts is listening. Out of the 11,
that'd be sweet, man. Bring it on, dude. I ain't scared of no ghost.
Out of the 12 people now watching us, I hope one of them is Fantasy Receipts. But at the same time, I understand the trepidation, for not wanting to do it, with these Achilles injuries. They could be, using Jordan Mason to alleviate some of the workload as well. I hate the way
they might not even have to use them much because the Buccaneers also have an injured Baker Mayfield.
He was probably injured from the head. He probably whipped his head back so fast after he lost that coin toss. Did you see that? Probably got whiplash. My neck. He knew he was losing that game.
Yep.
So I got a little bit of a spicy one here too as well. All right. So it's a guy you're probably starting. All right, but at the same time, if you got better options out there for streamers, I mean, depending on the option, there's one out of the couple, maybe actually two that I would do.
I like it. Keep tabs on me. Bring it on.
It's Baker Mayfield. He's my sour player. It wasn't his worst finish of the year. That came week 2 against the Broncos or week 3. But he was QB 15 last week. All right, that's not startable in most leagues. All right, against Kansas City. He's got no Mike Evans again. We know that. San Francisco is the 11th toughest matchup for QBs. That's another tough matchup. Not as tough as Kansas City, but still another tough matchup. So I do expect another week of Baker outside the top 12. Even if it's 13 or 14, I still think it's going to be around that range for Baker. So, Sam Darnold, I'd start him over Baker this week.
Agreed.
Daniel Jones, that's the one where I was like, it gets a little risky. I think I would start Daniel Jones over Baker this week, but that is spicy.
With him dealing with an injury, I mean, you can think about that, but no, I'm still going to go Baker.
Appreciate you, Jamie.
Hell yeah.
So that leads me to believe we probably don't have the same sweet player pick. Who's your sweet player?
I'm going with the easy one because this guy should be in your lineup all the time now. It's Kate Otten, man. He has been fantastic the last 3 games, averaging 22 points per game. That's something we don't see from tight ends very much nowadays, except for like the old Travis Kelce and maybe those 2 games Kyle Pitts pulled off a few weeks ago. But yeah, Kate Otten's on a roll right now. Baker's that's his only guy other than the 2 running backs. He can't trust McMillian. Yeah, it's Kate Otten.
You're telling me you can't trust Sterling Shepard either?
No, why would we?
It was a joke, sarcasm.
I know. I mean, he could
does
be
this all
rostered.
disappear when Mike Evans comes back after the bye week? Because you got the bye week next week. You got the bye week next week. This is probably, is this, your last time of, top 5 dominance from Kate Otten once Mike Evans come back? I think he's still top 10. You know what I mean? But the thing is like when you're a top 10, tight end, if you're in that 8, 9, 10 range, you're still not a good tight end.
I think will be an above average tight end for the rest of the year.
So in that like 6, 7, maybe 8 range?
5 to 8.
Okay. But yeah, I was right. We don't have the same sweet player pick. This may be low hanging fruit. He's been a streamer all year, kind of. He was drafted as a streamer. He's probably, been played as a streamer all year, but he's been on fire, and it's Brock Purdy. This is a beautiful matchup for Brock Purdy. Like you alluded to earlier, CMC is supposed to be back here. Whether it's a lot or a little, it helps Brock Purdy. Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, they're supposed to be back as well for this team. That helps Brock Purdy. Tampa Bay is the 3rd best matchup for QBs. They've allowed the 3rd most passing yards in the NFL.
Pearsall's not bad either.
I mean, yeah, he's not a bad option if you're down in the dumps this week as a flex play. But this is the most surprising stat that you'll probably, see in a while that I've said probably every, week. For the first time since week 7 of last year, Mahomes finished as a top 5 QB in fantasy football. And you know who it was against? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week. He finished as QB3.
Had to go overtime prior to do it, but
I think you get a top 5 lock, for Brock Purdy this week. I mean, first time since week 7 of last year, Mahomes, he finally broke the barrier. So, I mean, lock and load Brock Purdy into your lineups this week.
I agree.
All right. I'm glad you agree. On to the next one here. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Washington Commanders. I'm not going to lie. This one might be game of the week. This one's going to be a good one. Commanders are 7-2, aren't they? Or 6-2? 7-2. Steelers.
They both have only 2 losses.
Exactly. And they're both 7-2, I think, then, at this point. So this is going to be a good game. Maybe not high scoring. Vegas thinks, the over-under is at 40. It's set at 45. So it's kind of, they don't really know. Commanders are favored by 3. But, man, Mike Tomlin, he loves playing rookie QBs. TJ Watt loves playing rookie QBs. This might be the rookie wall for Jaden Daniels. And I guess I'll just, go right into it then. And I'll talk about my sour player here. And it is Jaden Daniels. I know I said last week he was my sour player. And, I mean, he finishes QB 11. That's still startable, but right on the fringe, guys, against the Giants. Pittsburgh is the 3rd toughest matchup for QBs, 11th toughest for wide receivers. And this was a pretty phenomenal stat that I got to pat myself on the back for pulling. But Pittsburgh this year has yet to allow a QB to finish top 10.
Huh.
Not one time through 8 games has a QB finished top 10 against Pittsburgh.
That's impressive.
And that's been Jaden Daniels' pretty much floor for the year. But this is, like I said, I think this is the one where the rookie wall it takes effect against the Steelers. Who's your sour pick?
I agree with you.
It's Jaden Daniels?
Oh, yeah. Which would lead me for the other quarterback would be my sweet player, which is Russell Wilson. He has such a great matchup this week against the Commanders, and I just have a feeling he's going to air it out like old times, maybe give Pickens a really good finish. Like Jamie said, he has him at wide receiver 12, which we like. I'm sure he has Russell maybe in the 15 range, which, I mean, isn't startable right now, but I think he can creep into a top 10 finish for sure. I mean, he finished his quarterback, 2 weeks ago, first start?
Russell Wilson?
Yeah. His first start, he finished as quarterback 3, I believe.
Like quarterback 3 overall?
Mm-hmm.
Really? I'll have to look that up here. Russell Wilson. Game log. Yeah,
Last week, not so great.
3 weeks 7 against the Jets. That was against the banged up Jets. All right, I guess I can see it here in this matchup against Washington. They do have a formidable secondary that he can take advantage, but it's not my sweet player. Russell QB 14. He's not my sweet player though. My sweet player, and hold for anticipation.
You dying, bro?
Because I didn't want to cough. It's Najee Harris. We talked about it a little bit before the show, in our group chat.
Yeah, that's true.
Since Russell Wilson has been named the starting QB, Najee Harris has seen 19.7 touches a game. That's 11th in the NFL, and has been RB14 in fantasy points per game with 17.5 the last 3 games. Washington is the 14th best matchup for running backs. Yes, you could throw on them, but you can also run on them.
Yeah, I agree.
So give me Najee Harris this week.
He has been better.
But what?
No, he's been better.
I know it kills you to admit that. Maybe that's why Dylan's not here. Maybe he called Spectrum just so he didn't have to admit that Najee Harris.
Hey, can you fake this email for me, guys?
Just because Najee Harris is, I don't want to talk about him. I don't want to admit it. That's funny. That's funny. All right. We'll move on then to our next game here. The afternoon games, the Tennessee Titans at the Los Angeles Chargers. At least it's in LA because that's the only thing fun about this game. Give me your sweet player because I asked for the sour last time.
Because the sour one is brutal. I kind of want to know who you picked for that. But the sweet play is easy. J.K. Dobbins averaging 16, or he's had 16 plus fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games. There was a rut there he had for a little bit where he struggled, but he seems to be getting back into the swing of things. He's once again RB2 flex option for me. Fire him up, especially with this depleted bye week situation.
Yeah, and I skipped over, the over-under for this game, 39 points. So Chargers do not play in games where they hit the over very much. They are favored by 7.5 points, though, believe it or not, and that's probably because of Will Levis.
That's a lot.
But when you got Will Levis as starting QB, anything can happen. You could lose by 17 points.
Chargers usually don't blow out teams with Harbaugh now, I don't think.
No, this might be one, though, when you got Will Levis starting. I'll lead right into it here. My sweet player is the same player as you. Dobbins is getting 4 targets a game the past 3 games. We like that. He's involved in the passing game because the Chargers have been passing it more recently. Yep. So it's nice to see he's involved. You are getting Gus Edwards off the IR. Even if he plays, I think it's, very limited because J.K. Dobbins has taken over this backfield. He's RB16 in the last 3 games. I think you said that. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 games. He's getting used in the red zone, which is, this offense is going to be in the red zone, especially in this game against the Titans. He is 16th in the NFL in touches the last 3 games with 18 a game. That is smash play. Tennessee is the 4th toughest matchup for wide receivers, which just makes it easier to run on them. Now, either way, you got to give me your sour player. So who is it?
Sweet play should be Chargers defense. Yeah, I probably should have picked that because they've been playing lights out, actually. But sour
not
pick.
A bad pick.
Sour pick, I want to say, I know I've said this before, but like the whole Titans offense, you can kind of avoid if that's okay to say. Can I do that? I mean, Tony Pollard, you might want to start because it's, like I said, a lot of bye weeks. But other than that, leave Calvin Ridley on the bench. Don't even think about Will Levis. And honestly, that's it from the Titans offense. So, yeah, I would say whole Titans offense except for Pollard.
I mean, the two guys you can start from this offense were Pollard and Calvin Ridley. But the caveat to that was, though, that Mason Rudolph was the reason you could start Calvin Ridley. He was dropped in a lot of leagues because of the fact Will Levis was throwing him the ball. I got some stats here for you. Weeks 1 through 6, when Will Levis was starting at QB, Ridley, this is fantasy points, I believe. Yeah, fantasypoints.com, where I'm getting this data for touches per game. It's a little different for wide receivers. Obviously, they don't touch it as much as running backs, but at the same time, I got the number and ranks for wide receivers for you. When Levis was the starting QB, Ridley touched the ball 2.4 times a game. That was 82nd amongst all wide receivers when Levis was the starting QB. All right. He averaged 7.6 fantasy points a game. In just 3 games with Mason Rudolph, Calvin Ridley was 12th in touches for wide receivers at 6.3, literally tripled the amount of times he touched the ball when Mason Rudolph was the QB, and was wide receiver 22 in those 3 games, averaging 14 points per game, double. So if Levis is the starter here, I can't start Calvin Ridley anymore. But if for some reason he's a surprise, inactive and Mason Rudolph's the starter, you can start Calvin Ridley, and he's not my sour play for this game.
That just Titans offense is brutal.
I mean, you're starting Pollard. You got no choice.
Unless you went running back heavy.
Yeah, that's fair. But, the way that wide receivers got drafted this year, not a lot of teams went running back heavy.
Like, I would take Ramondre over Pollard. Easy. Dobbins for sure.
It's a tough matchup. It's a tough one matchup. A tough one here. Man, I'm trying to... would you take Javonte or Tony Pollard?
Pollard. But I'd take Najee over Pollard.
I mean, I'd take Najee over Pollard. That was an easy one. I didn't want to give you that one. But yeah, I would take Pollard over Javonte just because I think he'll get more of a workload. Even though Tajay Spears is supposed to be active for this game.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next here. We have the New York Jets at the Arizona Cardinals, who pulled off a stunning victory against your Bears team last week.
Shut your face.
It's all right. I believe the Packers lost too. I mean, but they're on bye week this week, so they can't lose. Over under for this game is 46.5. Jets are favored by 2. That's an odd one. But who is your sour pick in this matchup?
Unfortunately, it's Kyler again. He's got another brutal matchup against quarterbacks. He's got a rough stretch for him in fantasy terms, maybe not in football terms, because I'm sure James Conner is going to get fed the ball quite a lot and maybe help them out. But even with all the bye weeks, you can avoid Kyler Murray this week. Seriously. I mean, there's Daniel Jones is on the table over him, unfortunately. And I hate to say that. I
thought about it. And because, and I'll let you do more talking if you want to, but Kyler Murray is my sour pick as well. It is a tough matchup. I feel like Kyler Murray has been, up and down, but it's been matchup based. He's been killing the bad defenses, and he's been bad against the good defenses. Like the Bears last week, they didn't need him, so they just ran the ball. Like, this is a run first team. James Conner is a good play this week. But yeah, if you got options, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, name another streamer, I'd probably go over Kyle Murray. Brock Purdy, I'd play over Kyle Murray. Yeah, but if you got options, try and sit Murray. But if you're desperate, you throw him in because he's at least got a rushing floor for you.
Would you play Herbert over Kyler?
I would
Herbert hasn't been good at all this year except for a few starts where I think he's finished QB1 maybe 2 or 3 times.
No, he hasn't, he hasn't been great, but the thing is the last 4 weeks for Herbert
He's actually thrown 30+ times. I'm pretty sure.
That's the thing is he's eighth in the league in passing attempts the last 4 games, which is volume, which is what we love as a QB. He's just not getting as many touchdowns because they like to hand the ball off, but he's getting volume. So yeah, I think it's a tough matchup for Tennessee. It's easier to run. No, I think I would still go Kyler Murray over Herbert in this one. But Herbert is, streamer worthy, I think, because
what about Russell Wilson?
Oh man, Russell Wilson over
Russell got Commanders.
Man, that one's tough. Russell's gonna pumpkin here again. I feel like. So. I just feel safer with Kyler Murray's floor. Although I'd still lean Kyler Murray over Russell Wilson. I'm not to that point yet. But since, basically we had the same sour pick, I'll just talk about my sweet player here. It might be the same as yours. It might not, but you're going to like it either way because it's Breece Hall.
Yes. That's what I had.
He's been struggling, although, the last 3 games, he's been RB21, which is not where you drafted him to be. But the thing is RBs are scoring more lately because he's averaging 15.5 fantasy points per game the last 3. That's not bad. That's not losing.
Touches are there too.
Yeah, he's not losing you games, but running back scoring's up, which means he's down in the scoring. Arizona's the 9th best matchup for running backs. We love seeing that. He's getting 5.3 targets a game the last 3 games. That's 5th amongst all running backs. So, I know everybody's worried about Braylon Allen, this, Braylon Allen, that. On the year, Hall's snap count is 76% to Braylon Allen's 27%. So I'm really not worried about Braylon Allen too much when it comes to, Hall's, getting his ceiling capped. Now, Hall has only had 3 top 10 finishes this year. Like I said, this is not what you drafted him to.
And it was like an RB 1 and 2 finish, right? Where he was like the top guy.
Yeah, they were, I believe it was 1, 2, and 4, or it was 1, 3, and 4. But this will be his 4th week on the year where he gets a top 10 running back finish.
Yeah, and like I said, the touches are there. I believe in the past 2 games, when he's been struggling, he's still getting 17 touches per game. He's just not getting into the end zone yet. So I do expect him to get in the end zone this week.
That would be nice to see because, the touchdowns are coming up. Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. Even though they are highlights when they do.
Yeah.
So, man, we talked about it on Joe's show too. Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, they are probably, like the Mike Evans, Chris Godwin for the rest of the year. What, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin started out where they were both like wide receiver 1s pretty much. I think Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, if they could figure this out like they did that one game, last week, they are going to be that tandem.
Probably. I can't really think of a team that can compete with it. I mean, Eagles, maybe.
Cooper, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua for Stafford. But I digress. We'll move on to our next game here. The Philadelphia Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys. This was going to be a good one until Dak Prescott went on IR. Either way, they got to play. Over-under is 43.5. Eagles are favored by 7.5 points. That's another big line there that I feel like is possibly worth taking. Maybe not. But I asked you who your sour pick was last time. Who's the sweet pick?
As long as he's healthy, it's got to be Jalen Hurts. He is on an insane run right now. He's averaging 29 fantasy points per game. So, I mean, dude just can run a touchdown whenever he wants. He's throwing pretty well. He's got his weapons back. He should have Dallas Goedert back. So, yeah, it's time to fire up Jalen Hurts every week again. I know some people don't like the offense being run by Nick Sirianni because he's kind of a dork, but Jalen Hurts is good enough to overcome.
It's run by Kellen Moore.
Fine, they just don't like the head coach because Sirianni's a dumbass.
He is. He's a hype coach. That's all he is. And when they're doing bad, he was on the hot seat, but they're not doing bad anymore. And this is probably not a game they're going to be doing bad in. My sweet, you had a pretty low hanging fruit there, but I'm not going to lie. Mine's pretty low as well. because he is the RB1 in fantasy points per game so far in the year. It's Saquon Barkley, and he's going to have another RB1 type performance. Yes, even though Derrick Henry
No,
is
guys, on
killing
fire.
it, even though Derrick Henry is killing it this year, guys, and has more total points than Barkley, Barkley is the running back one in fantasy points per game over Derrick Henry. You know, it's not by much. It's only by 0.5, but either way. Cowboys are the fourth best matchup for running backs. They're allowing 4.6 yards per carry. That's 10th worst in the NFL. And the nice thing here is they've allowed 13 rushing touchdowns. That's the second most in the NFL. So this, I mean, it could easily go Jalen Hurts. You know, it can easily go Hurts' way with a Philly shove. But Barkley's, I think he's guaranteed at least a touchdown this week, which is going to make him boom.
Yeah.
So who's your sour player then?
I feel like a lot of these Eagles players are going to be good, so you can't really go sour on the Eagles. If Goddard does play, I do expect him to probably not be used much, so don't fall into that and actually play him. So, I guess I could say that's my sour player, but that's
Taysom Hill or Dallas Goedert?
I would go Taysom Hill there. I think Taysom Hill he's like, what else is there? They got nothing except for Kamara and him and Juwan Johnson, to be honest. But for my sour, I guess you can go Rico Dowdle. I know he can pass as a flex maybe, but he's got a really tough matchup this week. He was good last week, but it just seems like a tough – Eagles always play the Cowboys tough, especially the running back, so you might want to avoid him this week.
Give him his flowers, man. He's been RB15 the last 3 weeks, getting 17.
He gave him his flowers for doing good last week, where he boomed because he had 20 whatever points. That's the only reason he's that high. That's the only reason he's that high.
No, last 3 weeks he's been RB15. 7th in targets the last 3 weeks for running backs as well. 8th in receiving yards. So he's been used.
That's all with Dak, though. We don't know who knows what's going to go down.
You are correct here, and I was just giving him his flowers as well because he's my sour player also.
Wow.
Like you said, tough matchup. Philly is third toughest matchup for running backs. Dak Prescott just went to the IR. We're gonna get Cooper Rush. I'm not exactly sure how that's gonna fare out. He's a desperation flex this week against a really tough matchup. But I'd be trying to get somebody else in my lineup if you can over Rico Dowdle.
Totally random question. Did Cooper Rush beat the Eagles a couple years ago? Or am I just imagining that? I feel like he did.
You might be imagining that, but I can look up the game log here. What year you think it was? 23?
I think it was 2022 when Dak got hurt those first few weeks. Or something like that.
Let's see. Philly loss. Didn't play that. 2023, I don't see he didn't play against Philly in 2023, so it had to have been 2021. Where he beat it was week 18. But yeah, they beat Philly 51-26.
Oh, okay.
In 2021.
That was too long ago, but at least I remember that.
Way too long ago. I'm surprised you can remember 3 years ago when I can't remember my breakfast, let alone my lunch. We'll move on to what should be a fun game, and please, for the love of God, activate Nico Collins and tell me he's playing this game because he is questionable.
I don't see it happening there, bud.
Please don't do that to me. It's the Detroit Lions at the Houston Texans here. This is a fun over-under of 49 points. The Lions are favored by 3.5. All right. I got to know it. Even though it's a fun matchup. We started with Sweet last time. Give me your sour player. Who's the sour player in such a good matchup?
Oh, I know you say it's a good matchup, but it's CJ Stroud. And in 5 straight games, he has failed to be a quarterback one. Detroit's been pretty solid against the pass lately, too, as well. So you got to remember that. And Stroud's could be out with most of his weapons other than Tank Dell. And ever since Joe Mixon arrived, it seems like this year, he is no longer quarterback one worthy.
He has been missing Nico Collins, so you don't see that, going away if Nico Collins does play?
I don't think Nico plays, so that's why I'm going with Stroud. I really
I
don't think
hate
he
you
plays.
so much.
I know
hate
you want to
so
will it into existence. It's not happening.
I am. I'm manifesting it into an existence, and that's why him and Tank Dell are my sweet players for this
Yeah.
week. And I'll give you my sour player after you give me your sweet players. But man, you revved me into it. Nico Collins, please play because it's a beautiful matchup for you. Third best matchup for wide receivers is the Lions, one of 3 teams allowing 40+ points to wide receivers. 2 others are the Ravens and the Vikings. So you start your wide receivers with full confidence against the Lions, even though they've been a little better, as of late. Dell was wide receiver 15 last week with 0 touchdowns in a tough matchup against the Jets. Even if Collins does play, and I really want Nico Collins to play, please play. I think Tank Dell just benefits even more because then all the coverage will be shadowed over to Collins. So, Dell will just have a better game. But either way, I like both of them in this matchup. Who is your sweet play?
You actually would like this one. I was going to go Jamison Williams. He's going to be back. This is a good
That
matchup.
surprises me.
He's going to be back. He's got a good matchup. I mean, they always
Why
like
is
to
it a good
use him
matchup?
in weird ways. He's not going to have Derek Stingley on him. He's going to be able to run wild. And they're going to want to use him back after 2 games, either on end-arounds, screens, or whatever you want. So, yeah, I think Jamison Williams is a boom week for him. I know he's boom bust, but this is a good one for him to do.
I mean, if you're going to will, that into existence, why can't I will Nico Collins into playing into existence?
Because he's barely practicing.
I mean, he did have a limited practice today. Limited practice.
That's not great on a Friday there, bud.
Hey, no, limited is better than no practice, bud. Let me tell you about another guy that's going to have a sorry week, bub. Because it's my sour player, and his name is Joe Mixon. It's spicy. I know it.
Why?
You're still starting him. You're still starting him, obviously. But just temper your expectations a wee bit here. And by a wee bit, maybe a little bit more than a wee bit. This is the 5th toughest matchup for running backs. All right. Last 3 games, Mixon is averaging the most touches per game, like we said. So, like I said, don't bench him. But Mixon's worst finish besides week 2 when he got injured, was last week as RB15. All right. That was his first time not finishing as a top 12 running back when he was healthy. He's healthy this week. It's a tough matchup. I think it's just easier to throw on him. Like I said, Nico Collins is getting into the lineup again.
He's not.
Stop it. He's getting into the lineup, you hater. And this will be the 2nd week outside the top 12 running backs for Joe Mixon. How dare you hate on my Nico Collins, my little Nico Collins. All right, you got nothing left to say? We'll move on to the Monday night game, which I think is, thank God Tua is back because this should be a good game. We got the Miami Dolphins at the Los Angeles Rams. Chargers play the day before, so that should be fun getting that all switched around in a day. We have an over-under of 50.5, so they think it's a fun game too as well. The Rams are favored by 1. And that might just be because they're home.
Probably.
But this should be a good Monday night game, probably one of the better ones of the year. But give me your sour player.
I think I already said that because this is the easiest one, and it's Jalen Waddle. 0 wide receiver 1 finishes this year. Only 1 wide receiver 2 finish. And in the last 2 games with Tua, he's only averaging 3 targets and 5.7 fantasy points per game. Not great for Jalen Waddle. He did score that touchdown last week or 2 weeks ago, but it was on 2 targets for 2 catches for like -2 yards. So you got that going for you.
You got that going for you. I mean, you nailed it on the head. He's my sour player as well. He's wide receiver 68 on the year in fantasy points per game with 8.2 a game. He's wide receiver 82 the last 3 weeks, only averaging 6 fantasy points per game, only seeing 3.3 targets in that span. So if you got better options, even with 4 bye weeks, I'd be sitting Jalen Waddle. This is a good matchup where you should be able to see something from him. So if you're desperate, you can play him.
I don't think it's as good a matchup as you guys think.
I mean, it's like I said, if it is a get right game, this should be the game. But I wouldn't bet my money on it the way things have been going with Jalen Waddle.
I mean, I'm pretty sure both defenses are pretty good against quarterbacks. Like Miami should be top 5 for some reason this year.
Their stats are skewed because teams didn't have to throw on them, but they are the second toughest matchup. Teams didn't have to throw on them when they didn't have Tua, so they didn't have to do anything. But the Rams are a decent matchup. They're the 13th best matchup for QBs. So it could just be playing, catch up from the Rams, which we know they can with Puka and Cooper Kupp. So who is your sweep pick?
I like Kyren Williams to come back to what he usually is and drop another 20-point performance. I think the Dolphins can be beat on the ground. And I finally think he can get back in the end zone, like I said. So he's usually known for that. It's been 2 weeks since he scored after, 9 games straight. So I'm going to go with him getting back in there.
Yeah. Did you know that there is a punter in the NFL that is third in the NFL in touches with 22.6 a game? And the last 3 weeks, he's fifth in the league with 24 touches a game. Yeah, Kyren Williams is my sweet player as well, and he's not that punt returner everybody thought he was going to be. I know Jamie just put in the chat here. He's got a feeling Kyren will start to fade away soon with his high volume workload. Maybe you see Corum.
Got that last year.
I mean, this is the time where rookie running backs do start to, blossom a little bit more, but the way that they're just running Kyren into the ground, it's hard to believe. I see your question, Arturo. We will answer that as well. But yeah, he's my sweet pick. Miami's 10th best matchup for running backs. Kyren Williams has had just one top 5 running back finish this year. Hard to believe that with how much volume he's getting. This will be his second top 5 running back performance with this solid matchup. Wouldn't be surprised if he finds the end zone twice with this matchup, especially with the fact that he broke
for those last 2 weeks.
He broke his touchdown streak last week, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 2. All right, we do have one more question here. Arturo, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it. He said someone offered me Garrett Wilson, I'm guessing for CD. Should I accept? Here's the thing. I love CD. He's probably, he's still going to get his, hyper target, from Cooper Rush. This offense has struggled, though.
Plus, CD is banged up.
CD is banged up as well. This is something where rest of the season, because Dak Prescott is on the IR, expected to miss 4 games. They said potentially 6, and we're in week 10. I'll take Garrett Wilson over CD Lamb rest of the season.
I don't know if I can pull that trigger, like if I was a CD owner, but it's not a bad idea at all.
So on the year, Garrett Wilson is wide receiver 8 in fantasy points per game, and CeeDee Lamb is wide receiver 6. So,
I mean, like I said, you can't go wrong. CD just took a few hits. He's injured and all that, but I just can't personally bring myself to do that.
Man, I could. It's Arturo. You could make an argument for this. I think me personally, it's not that I am afraid of CD Lamb at all. I just love the upside for Garrett Wilson right now with Devontae Adams. Everyone thought Adams was going to be the number 1 target, and it's not been true. Garrett Wilson has been the number 1 target since Devontae Adams has gotten theirs. And CeeDee Lamb is the number 1 target, but it's Cooper Rush throwing him the ball for the foreseeable future. And that's what scares me about the ceilings of CeeDee Lamb. He's safe, and you're fine going the safe route. But we play fantasy football. You're playing with at least 9 or 11 other players, and only one person wins. Do you want safe, or do you want to try and go for that number 1 spot where I think Garrett Wilson can be that type of player? I know you're in the playoffs and you got CeeDee Lamb, but you got other players around that can help you. But CeeDee Lamb, if you've been depending on him for the year, it's going to be hard to depend on him for the rest of the year with Cooper Rush.
I mean, when Cooper Rush did play, he did target target CeeDee Lamb enough to where he's sustainable for wide receiver one finish still.
This was also when they could run the ball, which they cannot.
Which just means
they're
they're gonna have to throw more to CeeDee Lamb, man.
Which, I mean, the reason I say this is because defenses know if they can't run the ball, all right, let's shadow the safety over CeeDee Lamb. Maybe he gets the targets, but I'm just saying he's going to get hyper
don't
targeted.
expect 15, 16 touchdowns or whatever it was, but he'll still get some.
I could see 15, 16 touchdowns from Garrett Wilson this year, the way that, if that one game, it's a one-game sample size, man, but if that continues.
Maybe.
Maybe not. But like I said, only one person wins every year. Only one person wins. Last year it was CeeDee Lamb who helped you win. I just don't know if it's going to be CeeDee Lamb this year with the Cooper Rush throwing him the ball. Or I think Garrett Wilson could potentially help you win. Hopefully we helped you out. What'd you say?
I'm done.
I know, you're done. We're all done. That's the end of the show here, but damn, the problem is on Sunday he drops 9 points and I'm not getting Garnett or Wilson. But that is all, guys. Thank you for joining us here at the Candy Shop with the Mike and Ike. No Dylan here. He'll be here next week. Make sure you check out
if his internet is fixed.
And hopefully it's fixed by Sunday because he's going to be joining us on the Sunday Social Show. Make sure you join us for a Sunday Social if you need some rankings, insight from our number one ranker, Joe Bond, over at Fantasy Pros right now in the in-season rankings contest. If, you want to get in touch with the number one ranker right now in the game currently, you got to get on that Discord, fantasy6pack.net/plans. Get access to Joe whenever you want. You got Dave Eddy, Chris Rao, and Keith Fleming in the DFS. They can help you out. It's worth it. Ike, anything you're doing that you want to, get out before we head out here? No injury report, plug in.
Oh, I got that Monday, but I have to do the weekly recaps too that added to Injury Impact. So it's a long read if you guys are into that.
Hey, if you're into fantasy football and into reading, you're into that. But it has been fun, Ike. Thank you, everybody that has joined. Thank you, Jamie, for sticking around. We appreciate you. Until then, good luck in your fantasy matchups. Bye.